Good evening from Raleigh, North Carolina on this Tuesday, September the 19th, 2017, shortly after 9:35 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Remember to make all decisions and preparations based on official National Hurricane Center forecasts and products and all National Weather Service products as well. So just a quick video update tonight. It won't be as long as my other videos. There's a lot to talk about, but I can really simplify it into just a couple of things. That's what I will do. So you're looking at water vapor imagery at the mid-level. Here you're looking from GOES-16, the newest satellite that was launched up last fall. You're looking at a Category 5 Hurricane Maria after it crossed directly over island of Dominica down here last night. As you can see, it's covered quite a bit of ground, traveling I think about 10 to 12 miles per hour. I'll double check that in the advisory in just a minute in a couple of slides. But what you'll see here is a very tightly wound storm, very powerful. The tiny pinhole eye, you can see what these yellow colors are indicating: drier air. It's very dry. It's a very warm eye, you might hear some meteorologists say. So it's a sign of a very mature hurricane, and it's certainly turning into a very, very, very dire and dangerous situation for Puerto Rico right here, and then the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix right here, which you can see getting into maybe the inner parts of the eyewall here. But if I switch this over to infrared, we might get a little bit of a better idea of the structure of the storm. If we can load and kind of buffer out here. So the darker colors here are going to indicate higher cloud tops and therefore cooler cloud tops. And what you're seeing is, obviously lots of intense convection. Your strongest winds, which are now up to 175 miles per hour sustained. So a little bit shy of where Hurricane Irma was about a week and a half ago, but still an extremely dangerous, extremely powerful Category 5 hurricane. You can see that that's going to be kind of confined to this area here, with hurricane force winds extending out farther, and then tropical storm force winds already being felt on Puerto Rico right here, and British Virgin Islands, U.S. Virgin Islands down here. So an extremely dire situation. And I just want to look at a couple things to wrap up this video update. So if we look here, Hurricane Maria has actually approached close enough to where it's showing up on Puerto Rico's local radar station here in San Juan. South of San Juan, but that's the code for the radar. And what you can see is a very well-defined hurricane. You see concentric rings here. So your most intense winds, your 175 mile per hour winds, are going to be in this central eye wall, and out here is going to be not quite as that high, but still extremely destructive, extremely dangerous winds are still going to be in this area. So certainly a very dangerous situation sitting up there. This outer eye wall, maybe getting to St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands here, maybe by midnight tonight. And then Puerto Rico will be under the gun for the worst conditions over maybe daybreak here in central North Carolina. So 6 a.m. tomorrow, Hurricane Maria could be approaching a landfall in southeastern Puerto Rico, which is certainly not a very good scenario at all. As I reiterate, a very dangerous situation for them. So it's showing up on radar. We're able to see the storm. Preparations should definitely be done there. It's time for those people to seek a safe place, and we can only hope that the track wobbles a bit and alters so that land is not directly affected, but confidence continues to increase that both St. Croix here in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico are in line for a very, very destructive few days, a very dangerous few days. So if we jump over now to the National Hurricane Center official forecast, this is last updated at 8 p.m. A new one will be out in about an hour and 20 minutes at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And something to note here is this upgrade to 175 mile per hour winds sustained. So that's 1 minute sustained winds. Irma got up to a peak of 185 mile per hour winds, and you saw what that did to island of Aruda and things like that. So extremely dangerous situation there. Moving west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. So it's still moving at a pretty good clip. The rain threat is a huge issue for Puerto Rico, but not as much as the wind threat here, just because it'll be so much so fast that they can't handle it. And it's just, your heart goes out to our friends down in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands as they deal with this extremely destructive storm. So we can hope for the best there and wait for the new advisory and hope that the track changes. But it looks like they're going to have their hands full with this Hurricane Maria. So if we zoom in here to a little closer track, this is actually taken from a web program called HURR Tracker, HURR Tracker, Hurricane Tracker, and it's you can sign up, and it's a very good resource. It's kind of a catch-all for a lot of hurricane information. If we zoom in here, here's a kind of a simplified track so you can see Puerto Rico here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It's expected to make landfall as a Category 5 hurricane in Puerto Rico. There was some uncertainty a couple of days ago about if it would make a landfall as a Category 4 or Category 5, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't really matter because either way you're going to have catastrophic impacts. But just for the record, it's forecasted to make landfall as a Category 5 hurricane in southeastern Puerto Rico and the western part of St. Croix here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. And as you can see, it left a path straight over Dominica down here, weakened slightly to a Category 4 early this morning when we were all asleep, and then re-strengthened and kind of went to the next level. Category 5 today had winds of 160 miles per hour, but now it's jumped up to 175, as I've mentioned a couple of times. So what lies ahead for Maria is Puerto Rico completely in this cone of uncertainty. So as I've mentioned, it's appearing to make a beeline toward Puerto Rico. So certainly have to keep an eye on that and see what unfolds there. Excuse me. But as for after Puerto Rico, some of the mountainous terrain here hopefully will weaken it, and then into Hispaniola, more mountainous terrain as it interacts with land. Hopefully Maria will weaken down. This forecast to be a Category 4 as it goes out here. And if I take a little zoom back out, you can see it's forecasted to come up here. As for U.S. impacts, yesterday the forecast model guidance shifted east. Today it took a little tiny jog back to the west. So we're still in that wishy-washy time frame where it's kind of anyone's game after 5 days. Of course, this graphic here shows out to 2 p.m., so Sunday afternoon. So what would that be? Sunday the 20... I can't even think of the calendar right now, but a couple of days out to Sunday. So if we were to have any impacts in central North Carolina here, it would most likely be any time from next Monday to next Wednesday, looking like the most reasonable time frame. Some models have Hurricane Maria traversing the Caribbean, going through the Bahamas, and getting here a little quicker, but more reconnaissance aircraft, the hurricane hunters are getting more data so that the models will become more reliable. If you remember, Hurricane Irma was forecast to come up, make landfall in Wilmington, and then several days later, when the storm was actually here, it was making landfall in Southwest Florida. These things change. That's the nature of the weather. It's chaotic. It's hard to predict. So we can only hope for the best here. And just a little note, U.S. Virgin Islands has just north of 100,000 people on the island. That's the standard population, I think, the 2016 estimate, not including tourists. And then Puerto Rico, U.S. territory, actually has a population about 3.41 million. So a lot of people in Maria's path. So hopefully all goes well, and well, not all goes well, excuse me for that, but hopefully Hurricane Maria somehow manages to wobble or weakens with land interaction, and somehow weakens, but it looks like a catastrophic hurricane is expected to make landfall on U.S. territory, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we can only hope for the best for them. And if I go back to kind of get a parting shot of a very scary and opposing looking Hurricane Maria, it continues to strengthen. So we can only hope that it weakens a little bit, but it continues to look impressive on satellite. So we'll see how it unfolds, and I'll have another video update out tomorrow evening, which by then Hurricane Maria is expected to be off of Puerto Rico. So hopefully the storm moves on along and doesn't prolong any damage on any of these Caribbean islands. But just stay safe, and if you have any loved ones in Puerto Rico, be sure they're aware of the situation, and we'll see how Hurricane Maria unfolds. And we can only hope for the best for them and keep them in our thoughts and prayers tonight. And I'll have another video update tomorrow, and I hope that everyone stays safe. And thanks for watching. Bye-bye.